client flew in from Florida. We had a dinner, and midway through the dinner, we had a conversation where he basically brought up to me that he loves the way that I created this no-brainer 2K offer. And it really got me starting to think about the conversation I had the day before. Like instantly, it reminded me of it with the conversation I had where my mentor just interviewed me as well too inside his community. And so over the last 48 hours, these two conversations really hit home for me on this end. So really one being with my mentor who interviewed me over Zoom on Monday. The other, like I said, had a dinner with my client. And it was really just around this idea of how the both conversations circled around the same core principles that got me to my first $1 million. And even after crossing $1 million in sales, they're still the exact ones I lean on to today. And especially how I'm able to keep it going without, grinding, without burning out and all that nonsense as well too. So today I want to bring you into some of those convos, bring into the back end of, because those are two private rooms, obviously, break down the gems and give you some lessons that you can run with here today. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. My name is Justice Severin. If this is your first time here, welcome to the channel. I make these videos for coaches and creators who want to build a wildly profitable personal brand, and I want to give you the hacks and the shortcuts in order to do so. I went ahead and got my business to 7 figures and beyond, and I want to make it so that you can do the same thing for yourself, but skip some of the headache and the hassle, and that is what this video is hopefully going to serve to do, and then some. I think this one's going to be right on the nose to really tackle some of these pieces. So really, I want to start off with the first one. So on Monday, this was literally over the last 2 days, right? So Monday, I was interviewed by my mentor, who I learned a ton from, especially in the earlier stage of the business. We were talking about backstory, kind of how I came up, and I shared something that really for me keeps on getting clearer and clearer the further I go, where really like in the beginning, you have to do things that you don't want to do. And this is if I'm putting it extremely bluntly, right? Like especially if you want to build leverage that lasts. And what do I even mean like when it comes down to things that you don't want to do? Like things like DMs, things like sales calls, things like testing content that ends up flopping, having these awkward conversations. Like this in my eyes is the real phase one. And it's how everybody who wins long term actually ends up winning. Like the people that you're looking up to and you're seeing that they're getting results. You've seen that now this is 5, 10, 20 years deep in their career. We overlook the reality that every single one of them, like literally every single one of them, even the ones whose parents hooked them up, they still technically had to go through some kind of a hurdle. So like, I don't want you to think, whatever hooked them up with money, position, like whatever the case is, they still had to go through and do the weeds. Because I'll tell you what, there's plenty of quote unquote rich babies out there, rich kids who ended up doing, diddly squat with their life. And I don't even want to go that direction. This isn't a negative video, but the point being is stop using that as an excuse. All right. Because this is how everybody is winning long term. And like I said, whether they're going to tell you or not, but instead people would rather go ahead and chase this ideology around, let me go ahead and get some passive income from day one. Let me go ahead and assume I have the same brand as Justice or this person or next person where I can go ahead and do the same things that he's doing. That's just not the reality. And I've shared plenty of videos around this kind of thought process in the past, but you need to just stop letting that paralyze you, because what's going to end up happening is you're going to try to start taking action on these pieces and these tactics that are just far beyond where you really are right now. And so you're not going to be able to move, and really you're not going to be able to move forward, not going to be able to execute, more importantly, and actually implement. So you're kind of stuck in the same spot. So I think that is where one of the large pieces in the early stages is understanding how to develop your messaging, right? A large part of your success is going to come down to messaging. And messaging isn't just content when I talk about messaging, right? Because I'm not talking about messaging in the sense of like direct messaging, DMing people. I'm talking about your overall marketing message and the messaging that you have there. And so a large part of your messaging really comes back to, and I would say it's really just not directly tied towards content. It's the backbone, though. It can be the backbone of your outbound strategy. It can be the backbone of your cold and warm outreach, right? For inbound leads and outbound leads. The reason why people are actually replying to you. It's what makes your offer hit before people even get in a call to chat with you. This is the overall piece. So you've got to find a straight path. I talk about this with sales conversations all the time. You've got to find a straight path that's going to allow a new prospect to go from what's their current pain that they're living in right now to the point that they actually want to get to seeing your solution, that they actually want to go ahead and they're interested and there's intrigue into what it is that you have to present, because there's so much noise out there. There's so many other options. So you've got to find a way to break through. And it's like one thing to get their attention. A lot of people are getting plenty of views, attention, But if you're not able to go ahead and flip that and position yourself into a place where you can actually present your offer to somebody, it really is all for nothing, right? So we've got to find a way to really weave from their pain to our solution, right? And being able to navigate that absolutely takes trial and error, but dialing it in is what's going to make you, you know, it can truly make you tens of thousands of dollars, and that's on the low end, if I'm being brutally honest. Obviously, there's other elements of the business you want to really dial in, but that's just such a big piece. So the more reps you can work in and this process, the better your business will be over the long term for it. Especially you're going to benefit from this if you're staying within the same niche for an extended period of time. That's kind of why a lot of times I think about my journey when I was getting into this. Like I have a home here. Like I thought about getting into the home and garden niche. I like that idea. And so I always pictured like I technically got into the wealth niche, make money online niche early on. We're talking 2020. You know, I was in the music industry like for 7 years before that, but really, I view on this online side and this phase of my life, if you will, kind of kicked off in this niche back in 2020. And so back then, though, I was thinking, let me get into that there to start, and then I'll go ahead and get into the home and garden niche, right? Once I get some skills, and I like that philosophy too. The reality, though, is that I spent time building up all this energy into building my brand within an existing niche that I was already working in. So it's like if I was to go ahead and start something new, I'm automatically starting with less leverage. And if you've heard anything from me, I hate having less leverage, right? So I say that's one big piece there where we want to really have it, where we can give ourselves the biggest advantage possible, right? So as we go around this side, we now want to start to think about, okay, if we have this mentality here where we can realistically go ahead and start working on a niche and a brand that's going to build us over the long term, yes, we can go ahead and use those skill sets in a different niche. Like I am sure that, you know, I help people in other niches, but then I could absolutely switch up at this point in my business. But at the same time, though, how can you go ahead and use that in a way to really get some quick results? Like for one, I have a client, Brianna, where she basically went from getting a ton of leads, ton of views, likes, engagement, but was really struggling on the actual conversion side. So really what we did was, and she was getting inbound leads, like I mentioned there, but just the conversion process was broken. So we developed a straight line, like I mentioned here, with the messaging to go ahead now and figure, okay, when someone is showing that they are, because if it's an inbound lead, they are expressing some kind of interest, right? They basically are saying, I need help. It doesn't matter what they need help with or the extent of how much they're screaming it, right? If you put this on a volume meter, but they're saying that they are clearly, there's gaps in their strategy and they're admitting it. So we need to go ahead and have a path that can take them from, okay, you admit you have the pain. How can we bob and weave over to the point where we can present our offer? And literally it was going from that point. I remember for our kickoff call, we just talked about getting that flow dialed in, and I showed her exactly how she should do it. In the first 45 days, she closed the first 10K month. So like this is what can happen if you have inbound traffic. You can really even start to pivot in that great direction there as well too. Right. So that was just a big piece even that came down. I was sharing there too within that interview. And just around that message side, right? When I started down my message, I saw a major shift where more replies, more deals, a lot of this started to happen. And then when I think back to even like this idea of cushion, that's the part I was talking about as well too, where if you get this, the more you start to get cash flow and results in your business, you start to build on this cushion. And now you're able to really set yourself to a point where you can be more picky with who you want to work with, be more picky with how you want to go about your business. But the important piece is when you're starting off, I truly believe you have to do these things that you don't want to do. And arguably that sticks around forever unless you're willing to pay a big team and all these pieces, which for me, I'm much more on this build something lean, high profit, and go in that direction, right? And it's like then you can work towards building a business you love and you can show up and doing. Just like I've been doing these weekly 30-minute type videos for the past 4 years, every Wednesday. Like this isn't hard to me. So you choose how you want to show up, right? Like this to me, like I like to get a lot of stuff off my chest. So it works out really well. So that's a big thing, right? So that was the interview I brought, that my old mentor brought me onto. I got to share a lot of gems. So those are some big stuff that came from that. Then last night, I actually had dinner with my client, right? He flew out. Like I said, this was on Tuesday, literally, here I am Wednesday recording this, right? I took one of my clients out to dinner, and we talked about two big things, I would say, right? One being the real value of making your offer approachable, right? He said something that really hit me, like I mentioned earlier, where it's like, he just said how I love that you have your 2K offer and where it's just such a no-brainer. Like I could get in, get wins, and grow from there. And ideally, if it were in my position, like let's get in and grow our relationship and reality, shoot, grow business together. Like let's continue continue working, and ascension can happen, all these pieces as well too. So, but we've got too many coaches out there really trying to force 10K offers on cold traffic when they have no results behind them. And this is where even people I think that are further along are doing the same mistake. And I like the ambition that they're trying to have this super high ticket thing, but it's like it's just not 100% necessary a lot of times there too. Right? So, I think that we really and my philosophy is I want to make it easier for people to get a win, then invite them deeper into my world, right? Like, let me prove myself to you before I go ahead and force you to go down this path here that potentially isn't even necessary, right? And then number two really came down towards consistency, right? Consistency. Here's where most coaches get it wrong, right? They think, hey, they keep showing up on social media, the money will come without a doubt, but if that showing up isn't strategic, like, what are you doing? You're just putting out busy work here. Like, content doesn't equal consistency. Execution does with a proper strategy, right? It's like, oh, let me just keep showing up, money's going to come in, but you never had a strategy to begin with. So that's where consistency over time beats intensity in short spurts every single time. What do I mean by that? A lot of people most folks just kind of judge their results off of time in itself, completely in isolation, right? Hey, I've been in this for 6 months. Why haven't I hit my first 10K month yet? But time alone is not the entire story, right? The reality is we need to not just judge how long you've been doing it, but the action that you've been taking within that, right? Because you can always be you can put in 3 months of, or let's just say you're showing for 60% capacity for 3 months, right? That's not 3 months of real, genuine effort. And that scattered output is only going to lead towards scattered results, right? I give this example too. Like, let's just say, I give clients like a goal of how many offers they should be making, right? Like in a given, really, let's call it a given day, week, or month. So let's just say, hey, this past week I made 20 offers. Okay, fantastic. So like that's great. Like how they convert, not a single sale. Okay, let's take a look back at how these offers were presented, right? Now let's just say that the person says, oh yeah, well, you know what? I got a phone call with each one. They were all, let's just call 30-minute calls, 60-minute calls. So we went super deep, and none of them sold. All right. Like clearly something's really wrong there, I would say. So we need to look in the weeds what's happening. So now let's go ahead and so that's like that's situation A. Still not good, right? I would say definitely not good. That's a terrible time waster. But that's situation A. Situation B, hey, I made 20 offers, nothing worked. Okay, let's look at how the offers were made. Well, I went ahead and I sent out 20 people a message and they said, hey, back, and then I sent them a link to my $10,000 offer. None of them bought. I sent 20 offers though. What's the deal? It's like in situation B, you have no chance at that point there, right? No chance, especially if you're just doing like, let's just say it's someone very cold, doesn't even know you. Even if they're warm, like good luck, like, good luck there. And so that's where we need to go ahead and be practical with how we're actually going about our actions and the consistency that we're taking. It's not just about time, it's about what's happening within that time, right? So I'd say that's just a huge piece. And I think about that too. I have a client, Ryan, where really we cleaned up his focus. I remember bring it back to the basics, just one offer, one lead source, one core message, right? And really from there, he ended up hitting back-to-back 10K months within 90 days apart, right? That's why I'm always saying the power of one is an extremely real thing, right? Every time I've helped a client strip back their business into one clear offer, message, lead flow, like they scale faster. Like every single time, point blank period. And Ryan's story is like literal proof of that right there. And even the one I mentioned before too about Brianna, right? So you can't win on your terms until you've earned leverage from your results. And this is one thing that really jumps back to me when I think about the dinner I had last night and when I was interviewed by my mentor on Monday, is this idea of you have to be able to get the results and bring validation to the process and really dial in your flow, your message, all of that, to the point where now you're able to get enough results to potentially give yourself a cushion. You could call this a capital cushion if we're being brutally honest, where it's like you now have enough capital in the business, from the business, that you don't, you're able to pay your bills comfortably. You're able to do these pieces, or maybe not even comfortably, but more comfortable, right? You want to be, everyone always wants to be more comfortable at an ideal, but let's say you're not there, but you're in a better spot. This is where now you can go ahead and start to really win on your terms. Start to go ahead and build more of a barrier between you and your prospects. And I say that in a way where it's like, hey, now you're really having a high filter so that the best people are coming through. And you may be losing money in the short term, but I promise you in the long term, you will benefit from that mentality. Okay. So I think that's just a huge piece as well, too. I mean, and that's why I really like after those two convos, like I remember I went to go write a post about this. Literally, I think I did the post just after the conversation on Monday, which was basically after the interview that when I was interviewed there, and it blew up. And I kind of wanted to just bring you some points of what I even shared from that. Really, one of the big ones was I actually sold the same offer for 2 years, right? So I had a high ticket offer, and I was just from 2021 through 2022. That was the only thing I sold. And I say that because it just kept me extremely focused and dialed in and allowed me to really embrace the messaging and all of that and just the little nuances there and just able to really get in the weeds so I could just master that one offer. Simplicity is always going to be what helps you scale the most. And so I think the more you can kind of, once again, just pull off that complexity there, it'll really just make things a lot better for you. So that was one big thing. The other piece after that is I shared how I lost money in 2022 because I was testing, investing, and learning, right? I lost more money that year than I ever have in the business. And that's because I really found myself having too many voices to listen to. Too many new systems I was trying to implement at once at one time there. And really, that's where I would say that though it felt like I took some losses that year, the reality is I had so many lessons. I met so many people, and like so much of what happened from that year, I literally took not just into the next year, but so much of those building blocks literally are playing out through my business right now. And like that's why like in 2023, like it was like literally like January 2nd or 3rd, everything changed. I refined, I doubled down on what was already working, and ended up hitting my first $1 million in the business, right? So I think this is where, like we're talking like how my first 65K month, all this kind of stuff. And it came back towards like, let's just go ahead. And more important than just the revenue is the profit was jumping up. I had in 2022, like 8 team members, right? I stripped it down heavily where now it's just me and 2 VAs, right? 2 virtual assistants. Like you don't need the most. It's about how can you be effective and build something, in my eyes, very lean that gives you the freedom. And that's why I can go ahead and create types of offers that don't require me to have a big team and all this kind of stuff. It's more so about just how can I have the impact while allowing myself to have the true balance that I'm looking for inside my business, right? I think the reality here is that people, when I look at today's day and age, like people are sick of the highlight reels, right? The whole days of all the Lamborghinis, all this kind of stuff. It's like people, they want the truth. And the simple truth is you do not need more new, right? You need more leverage. You need more alignment. You need more consistency. And that's going to be how you win this game in the long term. That's exactly what these beautiful 2 conversations reminded me, and you could argue continue to teach me about scaling to $1 million and beyond like I've done. And I imagine it's going to be the similar philosophies around how I get myself my first 10 million and beyond there as well too. So appreciate you sticking around for this one. Like I said, if you got some value, definitely hit that like button. I'm here every single week, so definitely subscribe if you want to make sure you see these. Actually, as well too, if this video helped you out and you want to kind of get the blueprint, even more of the kind of tactical behind the scenes of what got me to $1 million, I've got a free resource for you down below. It's just a copy of my Build Your Bestseller Business manuscript. It's 100% free down there. I walk you through the exact frameworks I use with my clients to build lean, leveraged, profitable online businesses without burning out or spinning their wheels. Okay, so it's free, it's actionable, and it's waiting for you below. So go ahead and check that down in the description. And if you're also looking for help from here on actually maybe you got a good grasp on this now after watching this video, but you want to navigate what your offer should look like, I'd highly recommend tapping into the YouTube video that I dropped here. I'll make sure I dropped up here on the screen for you as well too. That really breaks down how you can go from literally inception of an idea to launching the product in 72 hours so you can actually start selling it, right? It's called the easiest digital product to launch in 72 hours from zero to selling. So, looks like my timer's over. So check that out, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care for now.